You think you're prepared because you have a generator sitting in your garage. You've seen the movies, read the articles, watched the news about blackouts and grid failures. You told yourself you're ready. You spent good money on that machine, maybe even ran it once or twice to make sure it works. But here's the brutal truth nobody wants to tell you. When the lights go out and chaos erupts, that generator you're counting on will fail you. Not because it's poorly made, but because you don't actually know how to use it, maintain it, or protect it when it matters most. If you're serious about surviving what's coming, subscribe now, because what I'm about to reveal could be the difference between your family having power or sitting in the dark while everything falls apart around you. Let's start with the most dangerous lie in preparedness: the assumption that owning a generator equals being prepared. According to FEMA reports from recent major disasters, over 60% of backup generators failed during the first 72 hours of grid collapse. 60%. These weren't cheap knockoffs from questionable manufacturers. These were quality machines from trusted brands, sitting in garages and sheds across America, owned by people who thought they had done everything right. The problem wasn't the equipment. The problem was the catastrophic gap between ownership and operational readiness. When Hurricane Ida devastated Louisiana in 2021, emergency services documented thousands of generator failures. People who had invested thousands of dollars found themselves in the dark anyway, watching their food spoil, their medications warm up, and their communication devices die. The generators sat there, useless metal boxes that offered no help whatsoever. The first way your generator will betray you is fuel. Everyone focuses on having the generator, but almost nobody focuses on having enough fuel or storing it correctly. Gasoline degrades faster than most people realize. Within 3 to 6 months, untreated gasoline starts breaking down. The volatile compounds evaporate, leaving behind a thick, gummy residue that clogs carburetors and fuel lines. When you try to start that generator after 6 months of sitting idle, you're not getting clean fuel into the engine. You're forcing degraded, contaminated liquid through a system that requires precision. The engine sputters, coughs, and dies. Meanwhile, the emergency you're facing doesn't care about your fuel chemistry problems. Diesel lasts longer, around 12 to 18 months, but it has its own issues. Algae and bacteria grow in stored diesel, creating a sludge that blocks filters and destroys injection systems. Propane is the most stable option, lasting indefinitely if stored properly. But most people don't have propane generators because they cost more upfront and require different infrastructure. Even if you solve the fuel degradation problem with stabilizers and proper storage, you face the quantity problem. A typical portable generator running at half load consumes about half a gallon of gasoline per hour. Do the math. If the grid goes down for a week, you need 84 gallons of fuel just to run continuously. But you're not storing 84 gallons. You might have 10 or 20 gallons if you're being optimistic. That gives you maybe 2 days of intermittent use before you're completely out. Then what? Gas stations don't work without electricity. Their pumps are electric. During widespread outages, fuel becomes the most valuable commodity, and you'll be competing with thousands of desperate people for whatever remains. The 2021 Colonial Pipeline cyber attack showed exactly what happens when fuel supplies get disrupted. Panic buying, empty stations, price gouging, and violence. Your generator becomes worthless metal the moment your fuel runs out. Storage itself is another critical failure point that most people ignore. Gasoline is dangerous. It's highly flammable, produces toxic vapors, and degrades the containers it's stored in over time. Plastic gas cans, the kind everyone uses, allow fuel to evaporate and degrade faster than metal containers. They also become brittle over time, especially in extreme temperatures. I've seen firsthand what happens when someone stores gasoline improperly in a hot garage or shed. The containers crack, fuel leaks, vapors accumulate, and one spark from any source creates an inferno. During emergencies, fire departments are overwhelmed and can't respond quickly. A fuel fire in your garage during a crisis could destroy your home and everything you've prepared, while help is hours or days away. Even if you store fuel perfectly in proper containers with stabilizers in a cool, ventilated space away from ignition sources, you still need to rotate it. You need to use the old fuel and replace it with fresh fuel regularly. Most people don't do this. They buy fuel once, store it, and forget about it until they need it. By then it's too late. Beyond fuel, maintenance is where most generator owners completely fail. Generators are internal combustion engines with multiple systems that require regular attention. Oil needs changing. Spark plugs need replacing. Air filters need cleaning. Fuel filters need swapping. Batteries in electric start models need charging. Cooling systems need inspection. Most people never do any of this. They buy the generator, maybe read the manual once, and then let it sit untouched for months or years. When disaster strikes and they desperately need power, they discover the oil is sludge, the spark plug is corroded, the fuel system is gummed up, and the battery is dead. The generator won't start, and they have no idea how to diagnose or fix the problem in the middle of a crisis. Even if you maintain your generator properly, running it regularly under load is essential. You can't just start it once a month and let it idle for 10 minutes. That doesn't exercise the system. You need to connect actual loads, run it at operating temperature, and verify every function works correctly. This takes time and effort that most people simply don't invest. Carbon monoxide poisoning kills more people during power outages than most other generator-related hazards combined. This invisible, odorless gas is produced by all combustion engines and will kill you and your family if you don't understand how it works. Every single winter storm, hurricane, or extended blackout produces news reports of families found dead in their homes with generators running in garages, basements, or near windows and doors. People think they're being smart by keeping the generator close to the house for security and convenience. They crack a window or door thinking that provides enough ventilation. It doesn't. Carbon monoxide seeps into living spaces, accumulates while people sleep, and causes death without warning. The CDC documents hundreds of these deaths every year during disaster scenarios. Your generator must be positioned at least 20 feet away from any opening into your home, with the exhaust pointing away from the structure. You need working carbon monoxide detectors with fresh batteries throughout your home. But most people in crisis situations either don't know this information or ignore it because they're desperate for power and don't want to run long extension cords in the rain. Electrical safety is another area where overconfidence leads to disaster. You cannot simply plug your generator into a wall outlet and backfeed power into your home's electrical system. This is called backfeeding, and it's incredibly dangerous for multiple reasons. First, you can electrocute utility workers trying to restore power to your neighborhood. The power from your generator travels backward through the electrical lines, energizing equipment that workers assume is dead. Linemen have died this way. Second, you can destroy your generator, your home's electrical system, or both when grid power suddenly returns. The two power sources collide, creating massive electrical surges that fry circuits and start fires. The only safe way to connect a generator to your home is through a properly installed transfer switch that isolates your system from the grid. This requires an electrician and costs money that most people don't want to spend, so they take shortcuts, use improper connections, and create life-threatening situations. Even with proper installation, knowing what to power and how to manage loads separates people who successfully use generators from those who burn them out in the first few hours. Generators are rated by watts, but understanding starting watts versus running watts is critical. Many appliances, especially those with motors or compressors like refrigerators, freezers, air conditioners, and well pumps, require 2 to 3 times more power to start than they do to run. Your generator might be rated for 7,000 running watts, but if you try to start multiple high-draw appliances simultaneously, you'll exceed its capacity. The generator bogs down, overheats, or trips its circuit breaker. Repeated overloading damages the internal components and shortens the generator's lifespan dramatically. You need to prioritize loads intelligently. Essentials first. Refrigeration to preserve food, minimal lighting, phone charging, maybe a fan or a small heater depending on season. Everything else is luxury. But in the stress of an emergency, people panic and try to run everything at once. They want their whole house powered like normal. They overload the system and break it. Security becomes a massive issue that almost nobody considers until it's too late. Generators are loud. Everyone within several blocks knows you have power when theirs is gone. In the first day or two of an outage, this might not matter much. People are still calm, still expecting the grid to return soon. But as the outage extends into day 3, 4, 5, desperation sets in. People who didn't prepare start looking for resources. That loud generator running in your backyard becomes a beacon announcing you have what they need. Theft of generators during prolonged outages is extremely common. Even large heavy units get stolen by determined people with vehicles and tools. If you're not physically guarding your generator around the clock, you're at risk. Some people chain or bolt their generators down, but that only slows thieves. It doesn't stop them. Worse than theft is the potential for violence. When people are desperate, hungry, scared, and their families are suffering, they'll do things they wouldn't normally do. Your visible, audible generator makes you a target. You need to consider operational security carefully. Can you run the generator inside a shed or enclosure that muffles sound? Can you run it only at certain hours when noise is less noticeable? Do you have the means to defend your property if confrontation occurs? Most people never think through these scenarios until they're facing them. Weather and environmental factors destroy generators in ways most owners never anticipate. Generators must stay dry. Water and electricity create fatal combinations. Running a generator in rain, snow, or flooding conditions requires proper shelter that still allows adequate ventilation for cooling and exhaust. Many people improvise with tarps or partial enclosures that either don't protect the generator adequately or restrict airflow, causing overheating. Extreme cold makes starting generators difficult. Oil thickens, batteries lose capacity, and fuel doesn't vaporize properly. You need cold weather starting procedures and potentially synthetic oils rated for low temperatures. Extreme heat causes overheating problems, especially if the generator is in direct sunlight or an enclosed space without proper ventilation. Dust, dirt, and debris get sucked into air intakes and cooling systems, clogging filters and reducing efficiency. Salt air in coastal regions corrodes metal components rapidly. Each environment presents unique challenges that require specific solutions, but most people use their generators in whatever conditions exist without modification or adaptation. Parts and repair become impossible during widespread emergencies. If your generator breaks down during normal times, you can order parts online or visit a hardware store. During a major crisis with grid failure, supply chains collapse. Delivery services stop. Stores run out of inventory within hours. If you need a new spark plug, fuel filter, or carburetor gasket, you're not getting it. You either fix what you have with what you have, or your generator is finished. This means you need to stock spare parts before the crisis. But which parts? Most people don't know enough about their equipment to answer that question. At minimum, you need multiple spark plugs, air filters, fuel filters, extra oil, carburetor cleaning supplies, basic gaskets, and a complete set of tools that fit your specific generator model. You also need the knowledge to diagnose problems and make repairs yourself. Watching a YouTube video during a blackout isn't an option. You need to learn these skills now, while you have access to information and can practice without pressure. The psychological factor is something nobody talks about, but everyone experiences. Running a generator during an extended crisis is exhausting. The noise is constant and grating. The smell of exhaust permeates everything. The stress of managing fuel supplies, maintaining security, performing maintenance, and making load decisions drains you mentally and physically. You can't sleep properly because you're worried about theft, carbon monoxide, or the generator failing. Every strange sound makes you alert. Every fluctuation in power makes you anxious. The responsibility weighs heavily, especially if family members depend on you. After several days of this, your decision-making deteriorates. You make mistakes you wouldn't normally make. You take shortcuts. You get careless. This is when accidents happen. This is when the generator that's been running perfectly suddenly becomes a problem, because you weren't paying attention or you were too tired to notice warning signs. Alternative power sources expose another vulnerability in generator-dependent planning. Solar panels with battery storage don't require fuel, run silently, and need minimal maintenance. But most people dismiss them as too expensive or complicated. Wind turbines work in some locations but have their own challenges. The point isn't that generators are bad. The point is that relying solely on one power source creates a single point of failure. Diversification is the key to resilience. Having a generator plus solar panels plus battery banks plus multiple fuel types gives you redundancy. When one system fails or runs out of resources, you have backups. But most people put all their faith and money into one generator and nothing else. When that generator fails for any of the dozens of reasons we've discussed, they have nothing. They're in the dark like everyone else who didn't prepare at all. The harsh reality is that generators are tools, not solutions. They buy you time. They provide temporary power. They're a bridge to help you survive the initial shock of grid failure, but they're not sustainable for long-term scenarios. If the grid stays down for weeks or months, your generator becomes increasingly difficult to operate and maintain. Fuel runs out, parts wear down, security risks escalate. At some point, you'll need to transition to alternative strategies. This might mean reducing power consumption dramatically, finding manual alternatives to electrical devices, or relocating to areas with power. Your preparedness plan needs to account for this transition. You can't assume the generator will carry you indefinitely because it won't. Regional considerations matter tremendously, but get ignored in generic preparedness advice. If you live in hurricane territory, your generator needs are completely different than someone in earthquake zones or winter storm regions. Hurricane scenarios typically involve advance warning, allowing fuel stockpiling and preparation. but also bring flooding, extreme wind, and prolonged outages. Earthquake scenarios provide no warning but might have shorter duration outages depending on damage severity. Winter storms combine cold weather challenges with potential fuel shortages and dangerous carbon monoxide situations. Your specific location determines what threats you face and how your generator will be tested. Yet most people buy the first generator they see on sale without considering whether it's appropriate for their regional risks. Community dynamics during extended crises create complications that individual preparedness can't fully solve. Your neighbors know you have a generator. Some will ask to charge phones or store medication in your refrigerator. How do you respond? Saying no protects your resources, but potentially creates conflict with people who live next door and know where you sleep. Saying yes depletes your capacity and starts a pattern where more people keep asking for more help. There's no perfect answer. You need to make decisions based on your values, your relationship with neighbors, and realistic assessment of your resources. But these are emotionally difficult situations that occur during the worst possible times when everyone is stressed and scared. Thinking through your approach beforehand helps you maintain consistency and reduces decision fatigue when it matters most. The generator industry doesn't help consumers make informed decisions. Marketing emphasizes power output and price point while glossing over maintenance requirements, fuel consumption rates, and realistic operational expectations. Specifications are often optimistic, tested under ideal conditions that don't reflect real-world usage. Customer reviews focus on whether the unit started out of the box, not whether it performed reliably during an actual emergency 6 months later. This information gap leaves consumers unprepared for the reality of generator ownership and operation. You need to educate yourself independently, learn from people who've actually used generators during real disasters, and test your equipment thoroughly before you need it for survival. Legal and regulatory issues add another layer of complexity. Many jurisdictions have noise ordinances that limit when and how you can run generators. During declared emergencies, these rules might be relaxed, but enforcement depends on local authorities who might be overwhelmed dealing with the crisis itself. Permanent generator installations require permits and inspections. Fuel storage above certain quantities requires permits and compliance with fire codes. Violating these regulations during normal times results in fines. Violating them during emergencies might be ignored, or it might result in confiscation of your equipment. Understanding your local laws protects you from problems, but again, most people never research this until they're already in trouble. Insurance considerations get overlooked until disaster strikes. Does your homeowner's insurance cover generator-related damage? If improper generator use causes a fire, will your claim be denied? If carbon monoxide poisoning occurs, are you liable? If your generator backfeeds and injures a utility worker, what's your legal exposure? These questions have serious financial and legal implications, but most people operate generators without understanding their insurance coverage or liability risks. A single incident could result in hundreds of thousands of dollars in damages and legal fees that destroy your financial security. Training and practice separate those who successfully use generators during crises from those who fail. You need to practice starting your generator, connecting loads, managing fuel, performing basic maintenance, and responding to common problems. You need to do this regularly, not once a year. Muscle memory and procedural knowledge developed through practice allow you to operate effectively, even when you're stressed, tired, or scared. Your family members need training too. If something happens to you, can your spouse or teenage children operate the generator safely? Most families rely entirely on one person's knowledge. If that person is incapacitated, injured, or absent, everyone else is helpless. Cross-training ensures redundancy in skills, just like diversification ensures redundancy in equipment. Documentation is critical, but usually absent. You need printed manuals, maintenance logs, parts diagrams, troubleshooting guides, and operational procedures stored with your generator. When the internet is down and your phone is dead or conserving battery, you need physical documentation you can reference. Most people assume they'll remember how to do things or look it up when needed. Neither assumption is reliable during high-stress emergencies. Creating a simple binder with all essential information takes a few hours but could save your generator and your family when problems occur. Financial investment in generators requires realistic assessment of priorities. Is spending $2,000 on a generator the best use of limited preparedness funds? Maybe, maybe not. If you haven't stored adequate food, water, medical supplies, and security equipment, a generator might be premature. Power is important, but it's not as important as food, water, or safety. Many people buy expensive generators while neglecting more fundamental preparedness categories Because generators are exciting and visible. They're status symbols that announce preparedness to neighbors and visitors. But if the generator runs perfectly while you have no food to preserve or water to pump, you've made a poor strategic decision. Balanced preparedness addresses all categories proportionally, not just the ones that are fun or impressive. So where does this leave you? First, if you own a generator, test it completely right now. Not next week, not when you have time. Right now. Fill it with fresh fuel, start it. Run it under load for several hours. Verify every function works correctly. Check oil levels. Inspect all connections. Note any problems and fix them immediately. Second, calculate your fuel needs realistically and stock accordingly with proper stabilizers and storage containers. Third, learn basic maintenance and repair procedures specific to your model. Watch videos, read manuals, practice the skills. Fourth, install a proper transfer switch if you plan to power your home. Don't backfeed. Don't take shortcuts. Fifth, develop operational security plans that minimize noise and visibility. Sixth, cross-train family members, so knowledge isn't concentrated in one person. Seventh, document everything in a printed format, stored with your equipment. Eighth, diversify your power sources. Add solar batteries, alternative fuel options. Ninth, understand your regional threats and adapt your equipment and procedures accordingly. 10th, accept that generators are temporary tools, not permanent solutions, and plan for what comes after they stop working. The generators that fail during crises don't fail because they're defective. They fail because their owners didn't understand what they were buying, didn't maintain them properly, didn't store adequate fuel, didn't practice operations, didn't plan for security, didn't consider safety, and didn't think beyond the initial purchase. These failures are entirely preventable with knowledge, preparation, and realistic expectations. Your generator will either be one of your most valuable survival tools or an expensive piece of useless metal. The difference is entirely up to you and the work you do right now, before the crisis hits. Every day you delay is another day you're not actually prepared despite what you tell yourself. If you want to go deeper, you'll find in the pinned comment some guides and documents that can take your preparedness to the next level. Check them out when you're ready. Don't just watch this and move on with your day. Take action now. Your family's survival during the next major grid failure depends on what you do today, not what you wish you had done when it's already too late. Like this video, share it with people who need this information. Comment below with your own generator experiences or questions. And subscribe because the knowledge shared here could mean the difference between surviving the next crisis or becoming another statistic. The grid is more fragile than you think, and the threats are more real than most people want to admit. Be ready.